Greetings and great day, beautiful people. Dr. Dominique Reese here, CEO of Reese Financial Services, where I'm the Chief Financial Coach, Consultant, and Strategist. And today I want to talk with you about assets because in this age, we are all trying to build generational wealth, achieve financial freedom. But I find that part of the conversation can be a little bit elevated. And if you really want to get it right, we should start with some basics. Basics like, what is an asset? Because it's the collection of assets that will help you build wealth. So I want to talk to you today about four major assets that you can own. So let us get started right now. Four assets that you can own. All right. First, what is an asset? Well, good old Investopedia.com says that an asset is a resource with economic value that an individual, corporation, or country owns or controls with the expectation that it will provide a future benefit. So when we think about assets, now we're getting very specific, right? It is something that we expect to have a future benefit. When we collect assets, we want them to appreciate, right? We want them to create their own streams of income. So let's keep that in mind as we learn more about the types of assets that you can actually own. Now, there are four major asset classes. First, cash or cash equivalents. Now, I don't need to break down cash, right? But what is a cash equivalent? Now, these are cash or money market securities, treasury bills, notes, commercial paper, repurchase agreements, bankers' acceptances. These are some traditional types of cash equivalents. Now, there's cash, and then there's these cash equivalents. Cash equivalents and cash tend to be risk-free. So when we talk about, a risk-free rate, these are some of the securities that we attach to that label of a risk-free rate. And these are traditional. These are very traditional, classic investment types. You know what cash is. It's the green stuff sitting, in your wallet if you have it. A lot of us don't use cash like we used to, but it is literally the most liquid form of our asset, okay? The next would be bonds. We talked a little bit about bonds in a separate lesson, but a bond is a debt security. It's issued by federal government, states, counties, or cities, or a corporation. All right. And so bonds can be low to moderate risk, even high risk, depending upon the type of bond, meaning who issued the bond. And again, they tend to be a traditional investment. So when you think about building wealth, you want to have some cash, you want to have some cash equivalents, you may want to have some bonds. Again, these are the types of major asset classes that you can own when we begin to talk about building assets so that we can build our wealth. The question can become, well, what kinds of assets should I own? Well, here are the four major asset classes that you can own. All right, let's keep it going. Equities or stock, right? This represents ownership in a company. So when you own a stock, when you own equities, you own a piece of that company. Now we're talking ownership. It provides you a right to vote on company matters. And unfortunately, you are the last to get paid in a liquidation. Equities carry a moderate to high risk. And again, they are a traditional investment. So in our world of investing and collection of assets, we want to be able to have some combination of what I'm sharing with you today, right? And equities are one major asset class that you can own. Let's now talk about alternative investments. Now, you may not think of some of the assets that are labeled as an alternative investment as an alternative investment, but traditionally they are. And alternative investments in themselves tend to be non-traditional investments. These are investments that do not correlate with the stock market and offer a higher return in exchange for a higher risk. So that's saying high risk, high reward. Okay, if I'm going to take on a higher risk, I want a higher reward. You're going to have to pay me more to take on that risk. So this tends to include real estate, commodities, hedge funds, collectibles, etc. Okay. Again, they're higher risk and they are considered non-traditional investments because they do not correlate with the other traditional investments. So these are the four major asset classes. Now, why should you care? What's in it for you, right? Well, as a wealth builder, whether you're first generation, next generation, rebuilding, or inheriting, you want to keep it simple so you can take action, right? You want to know, what should I get my hands on so I can begin to build assets? Well, here are those four major asset classes. So how do you know how to build wealth, right? Like that's the whole motivation for this lesson. It starts with these major asset classes. So now you've got at least an idea of where you can start your research, where you could see what might align best with your risk tolerance, your profile, your overall investor profile. You want wealth, so strive to own these assets. The clients I specialize in working with have never been formally taught about money, myself included. So one doesn't always know what you don't know, right? You feel like you should know these things because we're adults. Nevertheless, you don't know what you don't know. So I like to bring everything back to like a very basic level. We want wealth. Okay, well, how do I start to build that? Start with these four major asset classes. Now you know, right? So when you look at your financial life, you can ask, do I own that? And it sounds very simple and elementary, I know. But at first, it can be. And it's okay that it is. But it's a great way to begin to like checklist your way to wealth, as I like to say. Now, yes, you may have cash, which is your when I need it, I got it. And if you don't, start there. Start by building your when I need it, I got it fund. And that's going to be in cash. However, what about cash equivalents like treasury securities? What about bonds? Do you own any equities? You can own them individually or in mutual funds or ETFs. This is where it gets more specific within each asset class, right? How about alternative investments? You may think those are only for the wealthy, but they're not. And if you want to be wealthy, this is how we get there. We begin to collect these assets. So own AI, and I'm not talking about artificial intelligence. I'm really talking about alternative investments. So that's real estate, that's art, that's precious metals. You have options, no pun intended, because those could also be alternative investments depending on your investing savvy. And you must explore what is best for you. So that's your goals, your risk tolerance, your time horizon. Again, all those elements of your investor profile. So now you know what you can own to help you increase your collection of assets. That's all I've got for you today. Again, if you've got any questions or you have an area that you'd like for me to explore, please reach out to me. I'm Dr. Dominique Reese, and I look forward to talking with you again. Peace.